So that's for Oleg, and presenter from Planning Commission kindly presented about being open. But I would like to focus on being open for what? Being open for whom? So it's going to be a very short presentation, but I'll focus on those two areas. So open data and citizen engagement. Before getting into the what kind of citizen engagement we're talking about around the open data, I would like to briefly go into what is citizen engagement. So broadly, when I or we at the World Bank, we talk about citizen engagement, it's about the closing the feedback loop between the governmental service providers and citizens and service users. On this presentation, I have a diagram. It might be a bit harder to see, but on your left side, so on the top side, there's government, and at the bottom side, there are citizens or service users. And then the first arrow goes from the government to citizens, sharing information and sharing data. And then citizens to provide feedback to the government, and it can be solicited feedback or continuous feedback, meaning, say, surveys, how customers or citizens are satisfied with the services being provided. Those are solicited feedback. It happens time to time. Census is one of the things. It's data collection method. It's not really about the satisfaction, but in terms of data collection, that's one of the examples. Or customer service. Private sector do have great examples of customer services, or it's essentially grievance redress mechanisms. Those are continuous feedback. As issues or feedback comes up, citizens or service users provide feedback continuously. And the last part of the citizen engagement, and it's the critical part, is that the taking action and communicating the service users or citizens what the government or service providers are deciding to do with the feedback they've collected. So what kind of citizen engagement could happen around open data? Why is government or service providers interacting with the citizens? When I talk about citizens, by the way, it's broadly about civil society organizations, individual citizens, academia, think tanks, journalists, private sector, and so forth, coming down to the really individuals, no? We individuals have multiple faces, I suppose, to say that even the government person at the end of the day is a citizen who uses government services. Private sector person also is a citizen. So broadly, citizens are defined in this context. And so first category of the citizen engagement around data is to interact with citizens on what kind of data should be prioritized and released for the public good. So it's the releasing part, being transparent part, what kind of things should be expected and so forth. The latter type of citizen engagement around open data is to use data. So there are two types. And thus far in the presentations, being open is discussed, but being open is the first step of the long journey to use the data for benefit from the data or being opened. And not everything has to be done by the government. It's rather about the constructive engagement between the government or service providers who are opening up the data with citizens to find or identify challenge areas and then deliver solutions. So I talked about two types of engagement around open data. So I'd like to go through what kind of citizen engagement can take place in those two types of citizen engagement. First, around being open. So what kind of citizen engagement can take place around being open? So first is deciding open data for what? Data is valuable when it's used and reused. So understanding what type of data demands are out there is very important. So this is the matching of what kind of data are available from the supply side and what kind of data is being demanded from the citizen side. Second type of citizen engagement is improving data quality. There can be a constructive relationship between government and citizens or civil society to establish a relationship to improve data quality and verify if the data being provided is right. It doesn't have to be criticism, no? It can be just constructive relationship to improve the data. Third category is around the policies and action plans or strategies on open data. There again can be constructive conversation of between government and citizens to generate open data policies, action plans, and strategies that make sense to both parties. That way there can be more effective matching of supply of data and demand for data being opened. And here I put the example of Open Government Partnership as an example. They do have a tripartite relationship where civil society organizations could voice their demand and opinions about action plans and the way forward. Around the second type of open data area where citizens can engage is to use the data. So from the government perspective, open data can be more effective platform to share information with citizens. Through open data, there can be more analysis done on data. So with this information, governmental service providers could partner with the civil society intermediaries to analyze data and better communicate what are the challenging areas, what are the things that the government is doing well, or service providers are doing well, or maybe not. But there can be more targeted information sharing being done. And around those targeted information sharing, service providers and government can ask more targeted feedback from the citizens. And having those feedback channels, citizens can become the part of co-generating solutions. Third area is developing new applications in economy. Oleg talked about this quite a bit. So first area can be improving service delivery. It can be around the electricity, water and sanitation, health, education, transport. There are so many sectors that can be improved through open data, and then having citizen inputs around these areas. And then also, open data and newly developed applications could accelerate growth and shared prosperity. For instance, we were in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh in September. It was to develop an open data-enabled solutions to increase rural prosperity, shared prosperity. So there are opportunities to, one, increase the prosperity or income generation and be inclusive about it. Third category is overall to enhance good governance. For instance, I'm not really a data person. I hated math as a student. Data actually puts me into sleep. But when something like budget data, which can be extremely boring, put into the understandable format, it can actually be interesting and you can understand it. And from the government side, it will be more effective information sharing about how they are spending their budget, which they collected from taxpayers, which is citizens. I would like to briefly talk about the Indian experience. There are a lot of emerging examples coming out from India. We found in September when we were looking around what kind of solutions are being developed in India, we found a lot of solutions, open data-enabled solutions in agricultural area. These are some of the examples. But on this presentation, I would like to highlight two international examples. One is coming from the World Bank supported project, and another one is coming from the private sector. First, I would like to focus on the World Bank supported project in Dominican Republic. It's actually around the electricity sector. This is the picture of their online platform that they have, and it's called Voz Electrica. It's basically an open 311 platform that they have. So basically, they developed the platform based on available data. They use multiple data sources to develop this platform, and on top of that, they are collecting customer feedback on electricity delivery. So if I were in Dominican Republic and not getting the electricity during the time that I'm supposed to getting, I can call or use the social media to report, I'm not getting electricity, what's going on? And service provider or government can act upon it. Many cities and municipalities in the UK and the US have similar systems, not only for electricity sector, but overall service provision of the government. And we also see a lot of similar platforms being built for transportation projects in Latin America. And I would like to focus on another example from the private sector. Here I would like to introduce Yelp. It's a web application and also a mobile application. It's available in cities in the US, Canada, and some European cities. It basically provides service information of restaurants, shopping centers, or any types of shop, car repair, home services, health and medical services, and etc. It's opening hours to location and so forth. And it also allows customers to provide feedback. So you can, this is the page on hospitals around the Washington, D.C. areas. So first one, you can see the name of it, photo of it, and then how customers are rating them. And actually, it's rather hard to see, but the third one is actually a very famous hospital. And surprisingly, they are rated for 3 stars. I was very surprised about it, as they were very famous. So they developed this application or platform based on several data sets. And on top of that, they are allowing service users to comment on their experiences getting services. So from the customer service point, you can pick and choose where to go to receive, say, medical services. But with this type of applications, there are several questions that remain with the government citizen engagement. Would this type of model be applicable to public sector, where competitions are not existing? Maybe it's applicable to some sectors like education and health, and we see some of the examples already, but questions remain. And this is very high-end solution. How can such service be useful in development context? Since we are coming from the World Bank, this always is a challenging question to ask. And that will be the end of my presentation. And I would like to have your feedback if possible, and feel free to contact me at my email. Thank you.